us a little more about what the Mills Fabrica actually do.
Yeah, so the Mills Fabrica, it's a textile, so technology and lifestyle innovation platform. Part of what we do is to incubate and invest in startups in the field of lifestyle, so like apparel textiles, food tech, but at the same time, we also do a lot of work with industry, so noise sharing events, and really trying to promote mobile innovation that's happening in the scene.
So tell us a few of the ways that you do try to help startups around Hong Kong and what you offer to them.
Yeah, so a lot of what we do, it's really providing additional support. So be it in terms of hardware, like a co-working space, lab access, retail presence, but more importantly, the software as well. So we do a lot of events that connects them to people like investors, brands, manufacturers, retailers that they can work with, and also, of course, financial investment.
Okay, so obviously you're hearing an awful lot about all sorts of exciting things happening in the field of innovation. What are some of the most exciting trends you're looking at the moment?
Yeah, I think this has been a super special year. I think everyone knows that the impact of COVID-19 has brought. The opportunities that we see now are in supply chain. If you think about the impact COVID-19 has, supply chains have been massively disrupted, be it in debt stock, excess inventory, logistical challenges. We're seeing a lot of innovations that are helping to make supply chains more efficient and more effective.
That's great that people are actually embracing what a lot of people have seen as a difficult situation, and they're finding a way to make the best sort of opportunities out of that. How do you think those innovations will change things for the future? Yeah,
I think we'll see more sort of innovations that facilitate more efficient but also more sustainable supply chains. So from like new materials, on-demand manufacturing, automation manufacturing, as well as changing consumer behavior in terms of new forms of retail that encourages more circular models.
And what do you think are the biggest challenges ahead?
Yeah, I think a lot of it would be, part of it for this year will be recovering from the crisis, surviving through the crisis. But I think after that also, it's really how can you actually use increasing sort of consumer awareness of sustainability and offset against higher costs with better quality to actually facilitate adoption of sustainable innovations.
And you think people have learned an awful lot about sustainability during this sort of crisis, and they're going to work on that more in the future?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is whether sustainability would be put to the side in the midst of this crisis. But we believe that this is actually an opportunity for businesses to have a reset and to rethink how supply chains and consumers work. And sustainability should come out as the top of mind topic coming out from this crisis.
And we're sort of talking here a little bit about startups and how easy it can be for them to embrace change. How much more difficult is it, say, for the bigger corporates who still should be sort of working on innovating?
Yeah, I think a lot of them are thinking about whether they can actually, what is the full impact from this crisis. A lot of them are still uncertain about how long this crisis would take. But it's also an opportunity in the midst when all retail is closed, in the midst when supply chains are disrupted. This is actually a perfect time for them to rethink that whole business model. How should they go more digital? How should they engage with customers more? But at the same time, are there things along the supply chain that this crisis has given them a chance to adjust and more customized based on global situations?
And do you think they should be investing more in helping startups who might actually be able to come up with great solutions for them?
There's so much opportunities for them to work with some of these innovators, and there's a benefit to being first, because if you're the first one using one of these sustainable materials, their consumers will remember the brands forward. And it's also a good way to actually help take the entire industry forward as well.
And why do you think Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area are such a hub for innovation?
I think there's just so much going on in this part of the world, and it's exciting to see. But most importantly is the talent, the quality of the talent that you can find here. I think Hong Kong is such an international place, bringing in talent both from mainland China as well as from overseas, as well as just the network of, if you think about brands, manufacturers who are based in this region, there's a lot of opportunities for both lifestyle and supply chain technologies here.
And do you think there's enough of a sort of flow of entrepreneurial talent coming through? Or do you think there needs to be more support, more education to kind of help kids get the right skills for the future?
Yeah, I think a lot has happened in the past few years, but obviously more support is always good. We have seen a lot of good programs by universities, by Hong Kong's government and government incubators and accelerators. I think continuous support and nurturing talent early on, giving them more opportunities and exposure to startups and entrepreneurship. At the same time, also having more sort of global companies that can offer job opportunities in entrepreneurship, in innovation, would help a lot to create the talent pipeline needed for entrepreneurship.
I definitely think that's a thing to be aware of. Now, what are the biggest challenges that you see ahead? Obviously, we're sort of weathering one of the hardest ones that have faced a lot of us of recent times with the COVID pandemic. What might be next?
Yeah.
And how do you prepare?
Yeah, I think the fundamental thing is that right now it's about survival of the entire ecosystem. And I think it's a scenario where both the challenge and opportunity is this is a test of whether different ecosystem players can stay together and cooperate and really support each other through, rather than a zero-sum game where everyone is only caring about their own business. And that extends across the supply chains, right? For some of these startups or entrepreneurs, is there ways that we can actually support them through the crisis such that their businesses can recover? At the same time, for some of the small, medium enterprises, right, are there ways that the larger players can actually think about their impact on supply chains if they're canceling orders, if they are, so if there's a way for the ecosystem to come together, that's what's most critical.
I think that's very important. Now, how about from an investment point of view? Have investors become a little bit more wary of late of taking a bit of a chance, maybe a risk with something they see as a great idea?
Yeah, I think this is a lot of investors are cautious now, but this is a good opportunity for investors to focus more on business fundamentals, because the crisis, as we all know, is short term. If it's a fundamentally solid business, there's still investment opportunities out there.
So that's it. Don't be scared. Find a good idea and go with it.
And I think also looking more at business fundamentals, things like profitability, things like whether business is just a short-term fad or whether it's something that actually meets customers' demand. This is actually a time where the best of the best would get funding, and is a good sort of way for investors to look for real opportunities that are of value and not just short-term bubbles.